we're here today monumentally. The Civil Rights Restoration Act isn't just for the gun owners, it's for everybody. The Civil Rights Restoration Act is going basically to restore everybody's rights. We as the people here in this room care about the Constitution. In New York State, about 105 years ago, I think that's where it was, the Sullivan Act took away a lot of your civil liberties, saying you have to have a permit to have a handgun. We have to correct that. In New York State civil liberties law is where your gun rights lie. It says cannot be infringed. Second Amendment written there, but cannot be infringed. We are having infringements not only on our mental health, on our right to keep and bear, on our property, on our civil rights. The Civil Rights Restoration Act is here for everybody. It's not just for the people in the room or for us to have a rallying cry. We want our rights back. If you go back in history, you'll find out that the Second Amendment was the First Amendment, and the First Amendment was the second one they wanted to put in, and they decided speech was much more powerful and wanted the First Amendment. Again, the Civil Rights Restoration Act is here to right the ship. We need supporters. We want this bill to go forward, make this a monumental day. Like I said, there's not a whole lot more I can say. Larry said an awful lot. He's very truthful. But we in this state have been beaten, bruised, taken as granted, and have less constitutional rights than anybody else in most of this country. We have the highest property taxes. We need to right the ship. And if we can do this properly and get it out there, I think the people are starting to see the fallacy of the liberal left. But we need our ambassadors here in the room, people like Pete Lopez to help us, Paloma to help us, and you got to count on yourselves. So with that, I'm going to be done talking for now. I'll take questions later. And the Civil Rights Restoration Act is important for every individual in New York State.
Hi, good morning. My name is Donna McKay. I live in Penn Yan. On April 13th, 2015, the New York State Police issued an accusatory letter against me, claiming that I had involuntarily been committed to a mental institution and was therefore disqualified at federal law from owning, possessing, or using a firearm. At the time, I was a valid handgun permit holder. I possessed a handgun that was properly registered to my permit. I also owned a long gun. I grew up hunting with my family, with my father, my grandfather, and friends. Most of the time I get my hunting tags every year. The deer that I harvest go to my family. They help feed my family. On April 15th, 2015, when the doorbell rang, I had no reason to believe that anything was wrong. 3 armed law enforcement officers were at my door to serve me with a court order for the confiscation of my handgun license, my handguns, and my long guns. 2 of my boys, they were 5 and 8 at the time, were watching TV in the next room. When I looked down and saw the order and it said involuntarily committed, I told the officers this is not true. Their response to me was, we know, but we have to do our job. It was not until September of 2016, a year and a half later, that I successfully completed my license hearing and won the restoration of my handgun license, my handgun, and my long guns. Now I am the plaintiff in a federal civil rights case, Donna McKay versus the state of New York. I am asking the court to declare a right to counsel for all persons who are facing mental health allegations in a license hearing when they are too poor to afford to pay for a private attorney, while facing the permanent deprivation of their right to defend themselves their children, and their homes. There is no way I could have represented myself in my license hearing. There were questions of federal and state laws. There were motions for jurisdictional subpoenas, even to obtain my hospital records. There was opposition from the hospital that had to be fought because they didn't want to supply a form the doctor had used to report me to the state, even though the doctor testified at my hearing on my behalf. I feel like I'm one of the lucky ones. I knew I needed a lawyer, and I kept calling people on the phone. I kept telling my story. I found 2 lawyers willing to work with me. No one should have to beg for access to justice. The allegations I faced were false, and we proved that. The New York State Police admitted that they had conducted no investigation prior to sending their secret letter to the judge that caused the judge to sign the confiscation order. I voluntarily sought medical care and treatment at a local hospital because I had an adverse reaction to a cough syrup that contained codeine, which I had taken as prescribed by my doctor, and I was voluntarily admitted for less than 12 hours. More than 600,000 people here in New York have their name and their confidential medical information sitting in a secret database at the New York State Police and the FBI. There is no more important piece of legislation for the 2017 session than the Civil Rights Restoration Act. It will help everyone who has been reported to get access to their records, to have a lawyer to help, and to get the right ruling. Justice may be blind, but I am asking you to look at the Civil Rights Restoration Act and get behind it and ask your legislator to vote for it. The one additional thing I want to emphasize is this. If you need help, get the help that you need. Do not let what you're hearing scare you away from seeking treatment. There will be time to fight it and set the record straight, because your good health is more important, and it is a very important asset in this fight for liberty and freedom. Thank you.
Do we have any questions from the press this time? I'd like to thank everyone for being here today. We do have walking papers where we have the language. Dean, it's all yours.
Folks, I want to commend everyone here for continuing to press for our freedoms. And I just took my oath of office at Square Courthouse on Friday to uphold the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of New York. Many of my colleagues, including our governor, have forgotten that they have taken that same oath. We are under assault. Certainly we have an obligation to uphold the rights of others, but we have the obligation to defend our own rights as well. This is one facet. There are other aspects to this fight. The biggest challenge is remaining united as we do this. So we need to make sure that we are on point. We need to make sure we are on our toes. We need to make sure that our colleagues are all pulling in the same direction, because our opposition seeks to divide us. They seek to alienate us. Our governor is proving that today, holding a state of the state message in Long Island, in New York City, while members of the legislature are here. This governor knows about dividing and conquering. He uses our own people against us. So we have to remain united. We need to stay focused, together, stay strong. And I congratulate our group this morning. Thank you.